What's a time you walked away with no regrets? I was 22 when my boss Dwayne offered me the promotion I'd been chasing for 2 years. Senior account manager, corner office, $85,000 salary plus bonuses. It came with one condition. I had to fire my best friend Bridget. She'd been struggling. Her mom had early onset dementia and the medical bills were crushing her. She'd started showing up late, missing deadlines, crying in the bathroom during lunch breaks. I'd been covering for her for 6 months, staying late to finish her projects, lying to Dwayne about why she missed client calls. I'd even forged her signature on reports twice. The promotion meeting was supposed to be my big moment. Instead, Dwayne slid a termination letter across his mahogany desk. Sign this and the job's yours. Keep protecting her and you're both gone by Friday. He leaned back in his leather chair, completely confident I'd choose myself. Everyone always did at that company. The last person who tried to stand up for someone else was fired within a week. I looked at the letter. Bridget's name typed at the top. A list of her failures that I'd helped hide. My signature line at the bottom. I need the weekend to think about it, I said. Dwayne laughed. You've got until Monday morning, but think carefully. How many times has she covered for you? He had a point. The answer was 0. Bridget was drowning and I'd been her life raft. She'd never had to be mine. That weekend, I couldn't sleep. My dad said, take the job. She'd do the same. My sister said I'd be stupid to throw away my career for someone else's problems. My mom stayed quiet, which meant she agreed with them but wouldn't say it. Even my uncle, who'd always told me to follow my gut, said this was business, not personal. On Sunday night, I drove to Bridget's apartment in the rain. She answered the door in pajamas, looking exhausted. Her mom was asleep on the couch, and the TV played some old game show on low volume. The apartment smelled like burnt toast and lavender air freshener. You okay? She asked. You look weird. Dwayne offered me senior account manager, I said. Her face lit up. Oh my God, finally. You deserve this so much. When do you start? I couldn't tell her. Not then, not while she looked genuinely happy for me while her entire life was falling apart. Monday morning, I walked into Dwayne's office at 8 a.m. sharp. He was already there, coffee in hand, that same confident smirk on his face. The termination letter sat on his desk, exactly where he'd left it Friday. So, he said, ready to join the big leagues? I sat down, picked up the letter, read through Bridget's failures one more time. Then I tore it in half. I quit, I said. Dwayne's face went blank. Excuse me? I quit. Effective immediately. I'll clean out my desk by noon. He recovered quickly, leaning forward. You're throwing away your career for someone who doesn't even know you're doing it? That's not loyalty, that's stupidity. Maybe, I said, but I can sleep at night. I stood up and walked toward the door. You'll never get another job like this, Dwayne called after me. I'll make sure of it. One call to my contacts and you're done in this industry. I turned back. Then I'll find another industry. By 11:30 a.m., my desk was empty. Bridget found me in the parking lot loading boxes into my car. She'd been crying. They fired me, she said. I don't know what I'm gonna do. You're going to be okay, I told her. Trust me. How do you know? I didn't answer. Couldn't explain that I just walked away from everything to make sure that was true. 3 weeks later, I got a call from a small nonprofit. They'd heard about what happened. Someone who worked there used to work with us. They offered me a position as their director of operations. The salary was $30,000 less than the promotion would have been. I took it without hesitating. Bridget got hired at a company with flexible hours and better benefits. Her mom's doing better now with the new care facility insurance covers. We still get coffee every Sunday. But here's what I didn't know then, what I only just found out last week when I was going through old emails to prep for my annual review. There was a second page to that termination letter. Dwayne never showed it to me, and what was on that page changed everything about what I thought I knew about that day. The email came from someone named Patricia Thornton. She worked in HR at my old company. Subject line read, "You should see this." I almost deleted it. 5 years had passed since I'd worked there. I'd built a good life at the nonprofit. We'd grown from 15 employees to 40. I was making decent money now. Not as much as I would have with that promotion, but enough. Bridget was thriving at her job. Her mom was stable, and we'd both moved on. But something made me open it. Patricia's message was short. I'm retiring next month and cleaning out old files. Found something from your termination day. Thought you deserved to know the whole story. See attachment. The attachment was a PDF scan. Page 2 of Bridget's termination letter. The page Dwayne had kept face down on his desk that Friday afternoon. I opened it on my laptop during lunch, sitting in my office at the nonprofit. The door was closed. Outside, I could hear my team laughing about something, probably the new intern who kept accidentally replying all to company emails. The second page started mid-sentence, continuing from where the first page ended, pending final approval from Human Resources. However, as per Company Policy Section 4.7.3, any termination of an employee who has filed a formal complaint within the past 90 days requires additional documentation and review by the Ethics Committee. I stopped reading. Bridget had filed a complaint. I scrolled down. There was more. Employee Bridget Summers filed complaint number 2847 on September 3rd regarding workplace harassment from Senior VP Dwayne Mitchell. Complaint details inappropriate comments about her appearance, unwanted physical contact during performance reviews, and retaliation when advances were declined. As the direct supervisor with authority to terminate, Mr. Mitchell is required to recuse himself from any personnel decisions regarding Ms. Summers until investigation concludes. The document was dated September 30th, the day Dwayne had offered me the promotion. Bridget's complaint had been filed 27 days earlier. I read it 3 more times. Then I opened a new tab and pulled up the calendar from 5 years ago. September 3rd. That was 2 weeks before Bridget's mom had been diagnosed, before the medical bills, before she started coming in late and missing deadlines. I'd assumed she was struggling because of her mom, but the timeline was wrong. She'd been struggling before that, and she'd filed a complaint against Dwayne. My phone rang. It was Bridget. We had plans to meet for coffee in an hour. Hey, she said. I'm running about 10 minutes late. Traffic's crazy. That okay? Yeah, I managed. That's fine. I hung up and kept reading. The second page included a note at the bottom, stamped in red, confidential, HR use only. This termination requires immediate suspension pending ethics committee review. Violation of protocol will result in disciplinary action up to and including termination of supervising manager. Dwayne had tried to fire Bridget anyway, by using me as the middleman. If I'd signed that letter, I would have been the one terminating her, not him. He would have been protected, and Bridget would have been gone before any investigation could finish. I sat there staring at my computer screen until my coffee went cold. That afternoon, I met Bridget at our usual spot, a small cafe 3 blocks from her office. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at our regular table by the window. She'd ordered my usual iced coffee with oat milk. "You look weird again," she said when I sat down. "What's wrong?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the email from Patricia, then the scanned pages. Bridget went pale. "I didn't," she started. "I never wanted you to know about that." "Why not?" She looked down at her coffee. "Because you quit for me. You threw away your career because you thought I was some helpless victim who couldn't handle her problems. If you'd known I'd filed a complaint against Dwayne, you might have thought I could handle myself. You might have taken the promotion. You filed a harassment complaint against our boss and didn't tell me? I filed it with corporate HR, not with anyone at our location. They said it would be confidential while they investigated. I figured it would take a few weeks, maybe a month, and then either Dwayne would get in trouble or nothing would happen. Either way, I didn't want to drag you into it. Bridget, he tried to use me to fire you illegally." "I know," she said quietly. "I figured that out about a year after we both left. I requested my personnel file through a lawyer. That's when I saw the complaint I'd filed had mysteriously disappeared from my records. There was no investigation, no follow-up, nothing. It was like I never filed it at all. I thought about Dwayne sitting in his office that Monday morning, so confident I'd sign the letter, so sure of himself. Did he ever? I couldn't finish the question. "Touch me?" Bridget said. "Once. He cornered me in the supply room and put his hand on my waist, said I'd look better if I wore skirts more often. I pushed him away and left. That's when I filed the complaint. But then my mom got diagnosed 2 weeks later and everything went to hell. I couldn't deal with a harassment investigation on top of everything else. I just wanted to survive each day." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have done something stupid," she said, "like confront him, or quit in protest, or march into HR yourself. You're one of those people who can't stand injustice. It's your worst quality and your best quality at the same time." She wasn't wrong. We sat in silence for a while. The cafe was busy with the after-work crowd. People in business clothes ordering complicated drinks and talking about their days. Normal problems, normal lives. "So what are you going to do?" Bridget finally asked. "What do you mean?" "Patricia sent you that document for a reason. She's retiring. She clearly thinks something wrong happened. Are you going to do anything about it?" I hadn't thought that far ahead. I'd been too busy processing the information. What would I even do? This was 5 years ago. Dwayne's probably still there, probably got promoted by now. The complaint disappeared. There's no case. "There's always a case," Bridget said. "The question is whether you want to open it." I went home that night and pulled out the boxes from storage. I'd kept everything from my old job, every email I'd ever sent, every project file, every report. I'd told myself it was for reference in case I needed examples for future jobs. But really, I think part of me had always known I might need evidence someday. It took me 3 days to go through everything. I worked at night after my regular job, sorting through files, creating a timeline. What I found made me sick. Bridget wasn't the first. There were at least 3 other women before her who'd left suddenly, all within a year of starting, all after working directly with Dwayne. I found emails where he'd made comments about their clothes, their appearance, whether they were dating anyone, subtle things, the kind of things you wouldn't notice if you weren't looking for a pattern. I'd been so focused on my own career, on hitting my targets and getting promoted, that I'd missed what was happening right in front of me. One of the women was named Lauren. She'd quit 6 months before I started. I found an email thread where she'd asked me to coffee once, about a year into my job. We'd never ended up meeting. She'd canceled at the last minute, and I'd forgotten about it. I found her on LinkedIn. She was working as a consultant now, running her own business. I sent her a message. "Hi, Lauren. This is going to sound strange, but I used to work at Morrison & Associates with Dwayne Mitchell. I'm looking into some things from that time period and wondered if you'd be willing to talk. No pressure. Just coffee if you're interested." She responded within an hour. "I'll talk, but not coffee. Drinks. You're going to need something stronger." We met the following Thursday at a bar downtown. Lauren looked successful, confident, the kind of person who'd clearly moved past whatever had happened at our old company. "So you worked for Dwayne," she said when we sat down. "How long did it take before he started?" "Started what? The comments? The touches? The inappropriate meetings in his office after everyone else left? He never did that to me," I said. Lauren raised her eyebrows. "Lucky you. Or maybe you just weren't his type. He liked women he thought he could control. Young, quiet, eager to please. You always seemed like you'd punch him if he tried anything." I almost laughed. She wasn't wrong about that. "I filed a complaint," Lauren said. "Did you know that?" "No, nobody did. HR took my statement, said they'd investigate, and then 2 weeks later I was being written up for performance issues I'd never had before. Suddenly every project I touched had problems. Every client meeting I attended had complaints. It was textbook retaliation. What happened? I quit. Took a severance package that included an NDA. I signed it because I needed the money, and I was terrified they'd blacklist me if I fought back. Spent the next year in therapy working through the damage. But I'm good now. Built my own thing. Never have to deal with people like him again." She took a long drink. "Why are you asking about this now?" I told her everything. About Bridget, about the termination letter, about the second page I'd only just discovered, about the complaint that had disappeared. Lauren's jaw tightened. "They buried my complaint too. I know they did. I requested my file before I signed the NDA and there was no record of it. They told me I must have been confused, that there was no complaint on file. How is that legal? It's not. but you'd need proof, and they're very good at making proof disappear. I thought about Patricia Thornton, the HR woman who'd sent me the scanned pages. She'd kept them, hidden them, for 5 years. There might be someone on the inside who can help, I said. Lauren's eyes lit up. Then you need to move fast. If she's retiring, they'll shred everything the moment she walks out the door. I called Patricia the next morning. She answered on the 3rd ring. I was wondering if you'd reach out, she said. Why did you send me those pages? Because I've been sitting on them for 5 years. Because Dwayne Mitchell has done this to at least 6 women that I know of. Because every time I tried to do something about it, I was blocked by people higher up who didn't want the scandal. And because in 2 weeks I'm walking out of this company and I'll never have to protect their secrets again. What do you need from me? Nothing, Patricia said. I'm giving you this information because you deserve to know what really happened that day. What you do with it is your choice. But if you want to do something, I suggest you work fast. They're already scheduling my exit interview and the document purge that comes with it. How many complaints are there? In the official files? 0. They've all been removed, but I keep copies. I always keep copies. Call it insurance, or maybe just guilt. I've watched this happen for 15 years and done nothing except file papers and follow orders. Can you send me everything? There was a long pause. If I do this, I'm burning bridges I might still need. I'm risking my pension, my references, everything. I know, I said, and I can't promise anything will come of it. But if we don't try, he'll keep doing this. Another pause. Then, give me your personal email, not your work one, and don't open anything until after 5 p.m. on Friday. That's when I officially retire. The email came through at 5:03 p.m. that Friday. 15 attachments, complaint forms, email threads, performance reviews that had been altered, documentation of 6 different women over 12 years, a pattern of behavior that was impossible to ignore once you saw it all laid out. Bridget's complaint was there. So was Lauren's. So were 4 others I'd never heard of. I spent the weekend reading everything, making notes, cross-referencing dates, building a case. On Monday, I called a lawyer. Her name was Diane Kowalski, and she specialized in employment law. She'd been recommended by someone at my nonprofit who'd had issues at their previous job. This is substantial, Diane said after reviewing everything I'd sent her. But it's also complicated. Most of these complaints are old. The NDAs might be enforceable, and you'll be going up against a company with deep pockets and expensive lawyers. So there's no case? I didn't say that. I said it's complicated. The pattern is clear, the documentation is solid, and the fact that they systematically removed complaints from personnel files is potentially criminal. But we'd need more than just Patricia's files. We'd need testimony from the women involved. I thought about Lauren, about Bridget, about 4 other women whose names I now knew. I'll talk to them, I said. Bridget agreed immediately. I'm in. Whatever you need. Lauren took more convincing. I signed an NDA. They could sue me for everything I have. Diane says NDAs don't protect illegal activity. If the company was systematically covering up harassment complaints, the NDA isn't enforceable. If. That's a big word. What if the lawyer's wrong? Then we'll deal with it. But Lauren, if we don't do this, he wins. They all win, and it keeps happening. She agreed after thinking about it for 3 days. The other 4 women were harder to find. One had moved to Seattle. One had left the industry entirely and was teaching yoga. One was working overseas. The last one, a woman named Claire, had gotten married and changed her last name. I tracked them all down over the next month, made phone calls, sent emails, had awkward conversations where I had to explain who I was and why I was dredging up painful memories from years ago. 2 of them agreed to help. The other 2 wanted nothing to do with it. I've moved on, one said. Reopening this would destroy me. I understood. I didn't push. By March, we had 4 women willing to testify, 15 pieces of documentation, and a lawyer who thought we had a real case. The question is what you want out of this, Diane said. Are you looking for a settlement, a public complaint, criminal charges? I want him gone, I said. I want it on record what he did, and I want to make sure he can't do it again. That's the hardest path. The company will fight to keep this quiet. They'll offer money to make you go away. I don't want their money, Diane smiled. Good, because you're probably not getting any. What you might get is justice, and that's worth more. We filed the complaint in April, not with the company, but with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It was a federal complaint alleging systematic discrimination and retaliation. The company's lawyers reached out within a week. They wanted to settle, offered $50,000 per person if we'd sign NDAs and walk away. We said no. They came back with $100,000 each. We said no. They threatened to destroy us, said they'd drag out the case for years, bury us in legal fees, and make sure none of us ever worked in our respective industries again. Diane told them to bring it. The case went public in June. A reporter from a business journal picked up the story. Morrison & Associates faces federal complaint over harassment cover-up. The article detailed everything. The complaints that had disappeared. The pattern of young women leaving suddenly. The HR manager who'd kept secret files for years. Dwayne's name was front and center. My phone rang constantly for a week. Reporters wanting interviews. Old coworkers reaching out, people from the company sending anonymous messages of support. And then, 3 weeks after the article ran, my nonprofit's board called an emergency meeting. We need to discuss the situation, the board chair said. Her name was Helena, and she'd always supported me. But her voice was careful now, measured. What situation? The lawsuit. The publicity. Some of our donors are concerned about the association. Morrison & Associates is a major player in this city. We can't afford to lose funding over this. Are you asking me to drop the case? We're asking you to consider what's best for the organization. I looked around the conference room. 8 board members. Half of them couldn't meet my eyes. What's best for the organization, I said slowly, is having a director who stands up for what's right. If that's a problem, I'll resign. We're not asking you to resign, Helena said quickly. We're just asking you to think about the bigger picture. I am thinking about the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that men like Dwayne Mitchell get away with this because everyone's too afraid to fight back, because organizations worry more about funding than about doing the right thing. If this nonprofit can't support me standing up against harassment, then maybe I shouldn't be working here. I stood up and left the meeting. I didn't resign, but I started updating my resume that night, just in case. The EEOC investigation took 7 months. They interviewed dozens of current and former employees, reviewed thousands of pages of documents, examined the company's HR practices going back 15 years. Their findings came out in December. Morrison and Associates engaged in systematic discrimination and retaliation. The company maintained a hostile work environment and deliberately destroyed evidence of employee complaints. The recommended penalties were severe: fines, mandatory training, external oversight of their HR department for 3 years. But the real victory came quietly, buried in a press release the company issued 2 weeks before Christmas. Senior Vice President Dwayne Mitchell has resigned to pursue other opportunities. He was gone. No public admission of wrongdoing. No apology. Just gone. Bridget called me when she saw the news. We did it. We did, I said. But it doesn't feel how I thought it would. What do you mean? I thought I'd feel triumphant, like we'd won something big. But mostly I just feel tired and sad that it took this much effort to get rid of one terrible person. That's because you're looking at it wrong, Bridget said. This wasn't about one person. It was about breaking a system that protected him. Every woman who comes after us won't have to go through what we did. That's the victory. She was right. I knew she was right. But it still felt hollow somehow. The nonprofit's board voted to keep me on, unanimously. Helena apologized for ever suggesting I drop the case. We were scared, she admitted. But you showed us what real leadership looks like. 3 of our major donors pulled their funding anyway. We lost $200,000 in annual support. But 5 new donors stepped up, including 2 women-led foundations, specifically because of my involvement in the case. We ended the year with more money than we'd started with. Life slowly returned to normal. The reporters stopped calling. The case faded from the headlines. Dwayne got a job at a smaller firm 2 states away, probably because someone didn't do their homework during the hiring process. Lauren started a consulting business teaching companies how to handle workplace complaints properly. She's booked solid for the next 2 years. The woman who'd been working overseas came back and joined our nonprofit. She's now my assistant director. Bridget got promoted to senior manager at her company. She's been dating someone for 8 months. Her mom moved into a better care facility with activities and social events. And me? I'm still at the nonprofit, still doing work I believe in, still making less money than I would have if I'd taken that promotion 5 years ago. But here's the thing I've learned. Regret isn't about the choices you make. It's about living with the consequences of those choices while wishing you'd chosen differently. I don't wish that. Last month, I got a letter forwarded from my old address. Inside was a handwritten note on cream-colored stationery. You don't know me, but I just started working at Morrison and Associates. During orientation, they told us about the EEOC case and the new harassment policies. They told us how to file complaints and promised they'd be taken seriously. I wanted you to know that what you did mattered. Thank you for making this company safer for people like me. It wasn't signed. I put the note in my desk drawer next to the scanned pages Patricia had sent me all those months ago. Some days when I'm doubting myself or feeling overwhelmed, I take it out and read it again. That letter is worth more than any corner office, more than any salary, more than any promotion Dwayne could have offered me. Because here's the truth about walking away with no regrets. It's not about making the easy choice. It's about making the choice you can live with, the choice that lets you sleep at night, the choice that makes you proud of who you are when you look in the mirror. Bridget and I still get coffee every Sunday. Last week, she showed me photos from her mom's birthday party at the care facility. Her mom was laughing, surrounded by friends, wearing a ridiculous party hat. She's doing really well, Bridget said. Better than she's been in years. That's great, I said. You know what she asked me the other day? What? She asked if you were the daughter she forgot she had, because you're around so much and you clearly care about both of us. I laughed. What did you tell her? I told her you were better than a sister. You were the person who showed up when my actual family couldn't, and that makes you more family than blood ever could. We sat there in our usual spot by the window, drinking our usual drinks, watching people walk by on the street. Normal people living normal lives. People who probably never had to make impossible choices, or stand up against powerful men, or risk everything for what was right. But maybe some of them had. Maybe every person walking past that window had their own moment where they had to choose between what was easy and what was right. And maybe they chose right too. That's what I like to think anyway. Because 5 years ago, I walked into an office at 8 a.m. and tore up a letter that could have changed my life. And I'd do it again. Every single time. No regrets. Not one.